Hey, babe, welcome back to the Turned On Woman podcast. I'm your host, Lauren, and I am so glad that you are here because if you're here, you know that you are creating your reality. And there's nothing I love more than being the one who's in control of my reality. But the funny thing is that it's not controlling with your mind, it's actually controlling and rather creating your reality with your energy, with how you feel. So, if you're here, you know that your energy is everything. And I want to really dive into some truths today that I was reminded of deeply from my most recent mushroom journey that I did. So, taking some medicinal mushrooms and allowing myself to kind of dive within my body, I was shown like, oh yeah, these are the most important truths that I need to know and that many women need to know, even men though as well too, about our bodies and how we are creating our reality. So everyone has masculine and feminine energy, just a quick reminder. And so, but for many of us, we are in this awakening phase of our lives of realizing, oh, it is so important how I feel, even though that part has been so suppressed by society. Because when we suppress our feminine energy, which is the way that we feel, the connection to our body, and literally our power as creators, when we suppress that part of ourselves, we become more controllable. We become more susceptible to needing things outside of us that then our society can profit off of, that capitalism can actually be a profitable thing. So when we take back our feminine energy, when we can feel into our body, knowing that we are the creator, that is when we use our energy to get what we want without needing to do more, without needing to buy more, without looking towards the outside. So the insights that I got from my most recent mushroom journey are what I'm going to share today because it reminded me of our internal power. It showed me just on a deep level how much we are creating our reality. And we're going to get into this too, how much there are two worlds going on right now. There's an internal world and there's an external world. And many people right now, probably yourself included if you're on your self-development journey, and this is an ongoing journey, like I'm discovering this more deeply for myself, is that we are waking up to our internal world and how that our internal world is actually the cause of the external world. So backing up a little bit, if you've never done psilocybin mushrooms before, you can microdose them or you can do like larger trips that take you a little bit deeper. They're a longer time span, things like that. And so my first one that I did in 2022 was at the very start of my journey of really going out and doing things on my own. And it's funny because at that time I was calling my coaching pleasure coaching because pleasure is a very feminine way of being. And actually pleasure and joy are the ways that it's a state of receiving. That's how we create the state of receiving. So I was on to something back then, but I didn't know it. And my first mushroom trip showed me how much pleasure and joy there is in this life. And I was like, wow. I was kind of scared of my first mushroom trip journey, but that's where I was at in life. And it will always kind of show you where you're at, what you're ready for. And it was really enjoyable. And I was like, okay, there's nothing to be afraid of. And actually our true frequency is pleasure, is joy, is playfulness, is this childlike state, which more and more when we release the conditioning and we release the expectations and the rules of society, we get back to that childlike, that pleasurable state. Then last year, I did another journey with a friend. My first one was with a retreat, which I highly recommend. And I would love to have a retreat with women in the future. So stay tuned for that, where we can actually dive into some medicinal mushrooms. And my second time doing it was with a friend. And this was when I was going through my breakup last year. I was still processing my breakup. The breakup already happened. I was processing it. And I knew I had so much grief to get out of me, to process. And I just cried and cried and cried. But I was also beautifully reminded of all of the joy and the pleasure that there is here on earth. Now, this third time that I took the mushrooms, sat with the mushrooms, I was really allowing myself to be guided to the truth and to allow that truth to sort of be solidified. And it was like, okay, like this is the message that we need to be working with. So I'm going to get into a couple of themes that I have about this journey, because so much of it was about, we're going to get into feeling, duality, internal versus external world, capacity, which relates to our nervous system. So we're going to get into it because I feel like the mushrooms really invited in, well, they do invite in this very feminine aspect of ourselves to get to a state of being in our body, feeling pleasure, letting go, but also allowing there to be emotion. So like I said, my second journey was very emotional, allowing to come up what needs to come up. And because mushrooms are so beautiful, they get rid of your ego. So you stop restraining yourself behind the rules and the expectations of how you should be and how it should look and all of these things. So it's a really beautiful way to just uncover what's truly there, that no longer, that doesn't it's not behind the cage anymore. It's not behind the restraints. And definitely when I was going into this trip, as in digesting it and really just like being with it, at first it was like, whoa, there was like a sense of control and a control of like, oh, I kind of felt nauseous. And it's just like, okay, we relax and we release the control and we allow and we become curious. And that is when we can truly be with the messages that are meant for us. And that can happen too, like in meditation, like when in meditation, there's a whole bunch of resistance at first. And it's like, oh, the mind is so loud and all these things. But it's like, if we breathe and we relax and we say, okay, you know what? I'm just here to observe the present moment. I'm just here to be with what is. And there's no agenda. We get rid of that agenda, which again, feminine energy is very much about experiencing, being present, being with what is, just being with no agenda. There's no outcome. There's no expectation and things like that. So when I was going in, I was really having to like release this control of like this just resistance that I had in my body, which was just such a good reminder of, oh yeah, we can tap deeper in to our bodies, into our feeling state when we get out of the mind that wants to control, that wants to be comfortable. And I've been working a lot with this, like being on the edge of discomfort is where we grow our capacity to regulate our nervous system, to allow in new things. Because, and there's a quote that I'll say later that I have in my notes, but it's that truly feeling it's so vulnerable, but it's also the most freeing. And so there's like this double-sided, like, expressing, feeling, being seen, they're all so vulnerable. Like we're on the edge of our comfort zone, but at the same time, it's so freeing. So let's get into it. Okay, so this first thing I want to talk about, this first like big theme was about feeling. And so I really got this message of we're here for pleasure and freedom. And that in and of itself, that purpose of humans being here on earth for pleasure and for freedom, that in and of itself is uncomfortable for our mind to handle, because it means that we must then overcome our mind, which is conditioned for survival, which is conditioned to control, also conditioned to think of the worst thing before the best case scenario. And so the fact that we are here for pleasure and freedom, that in and of itself is threatening to the mind / the ego, you could call it, to your identity. But we can own and claim our identity. We can choose like, this is who I'm going to be, but that's a radical, which is great, a radical way of being, a good radical way of being. Taking that radical responsibility of I am the creator and I'm going to show up in a way that allows me to get what I want. To take on the identity that I am worthy, that I am always lovable, that I'm going to truly and authentically express myself, even if it means rejection, even if it means, losing people in my life, because you're going to show up that way because you're here for pleasure and freedom. So again, kind of this like two-sided coin. We're going to lose things, but at the same time, we're going to feel more internal fulfillment, more internal peace and joy. And that's why we're really here, because doing things for others is sacrificing ourselves, and that never feels good. That becomes exhausting over time, and we lose ourselves. So another message that came through was there's a whole other world behind the one that we make sense of. So the one that we make sense of with our mind through our senses of, seeing, feeling, touching, tasting, smelling, all of those. And that is the one that we feel. So that's the other world behind the one that we can 3D tangibly make sense of and see and touch and taste is the one that we feel. And that's the internal world. And this is essentially the difference between masculine and feminine, is that the feminine, the womb, the portal of creation, this is the cause. The subconscious mind too, if you're familiar with Neville Goddard's work, is also names the subconscious mind as a feminine essenced thing. So your feminine is this feeling state, is the cause. And there's the feeling world. It's the energy. It's the subconscious. Whereas the 3D masculine world is the one that we can see. Therefore, the feminine is the unseen. The 3D world is the one that's created. It's already manifested. It's basically the past. Whereas the feminine, the unseen, the internal world is the quantum field. It's the all possibility. So when we work with plant medicines, we get access to our truth within. We get access to the unseen world. We get access to the subconscious mind. We let go of our mind and of our 3D senses, and we go into another world. We have access to our internal world, and there can be other experiences that happen on different types of medicines and things like that. But we basically detach from the 3D world and we go inward into the internal world. So another thing that I wrote down is that the feeling world is so precious and also powerful, I would add. And that's why it's demonized, and that's why it's kept away, or it is suppressed, or it is, and when I say demonized, it's like we've been told, that our emotions are weak, and, like, don't cry about it, or, just get over it. And we suppress this part of ourselves, which truly builds our own self-trust. So we lose self-trust when we don't trust how we feel. And that's why rules are made, is because the feeling world is so precious that we become more controllable when we cannot feel. So again, our feminine energy is what is creating, and it's a connection. Feminine energy is a connection to our body and to the internal world. Many times you've probably heard me say, like, it has really nothing to do with what you look like on the outside or even being a woman, but it is very important for women because we are more so connected to this unseen world, to this void, to this possibility of creation because we have a womb. So that's why, and there's also, like, I haven't really gotten into this much yet, but hormonally, biologically, like, oxytocin runs through us more so than men do, than it does in men. So we are actually regulated through our own feminine energy, through oxytocin. So those are a couple reasons why feminine energy is really important for women. But to get back to it, the feeling world is what is shut down by society so that they can control us, so that we become numb, so that we're always looking to the outside, so that we will buy into, go to school, get a job, retire at a certain age, all of these things that keep us limited. Because if we could truly feel and connect to that internal world, the quantum world, that's where we create and where we are limitless. So this feeling world, we can feel it and we remember it through things like music. Like when your body feels that remembrance, it's like, oh yeah, it's like on a soul level, like we resonate. And so there are different ways that like we remember things that it's like, oh yeah, like that is really speaking to me, or that resonates with me. So we always hear too that, you know, many people will say like, you're not actually becoming, you're remembering, or whatever it is. Like, you don't have to become someone, you're remembering who you truly are, which, whatever, there's different ways of saying things. But what are you remembering? The remembrance is that you are love at your core, that you're the creator of your reality, and that truly you are limitless, that limitations are learned here in society. So we are remembering our true nature, also abundance. Because the thing is that if we truly remembered that, we wouldn't then like need all of society's like structures and ways of control and way that they're profiting off of us. And that's what we're getting back to as we're going through like mass awakening. People are remembering, getting back to this regulated state of like, oh yeah, I am love. I don't need anything outside of me. Sure, things outside of me enhance my life, and like you can receive infinite amounts of abundance, no problem. But like, it's like, you don't need the money to make you happy. You're already happy, and you're just creating, and you're just living and loving and enjoying your life. And all of a sudden you're receiving money because you know that you're ultimately worthy of it. Or you're receiving love from a man, or the relationship that you desire, because you don't actually need the man to make you happy. He's just, like I say, the cherry on top of your life. So we're remembering that play and joy and pleasure, these things are not earned, but they're there for us to resource ourselves. And that as a resource, the play, the pleasure, the joy, that is the frequency of source, which is like, you could call it God's source. But your frequency, your core frequency is love. So when we use play and joy and pleasure and moments of love where we feel love, we are resourced back to our true state of being, which is love, which is godlike. Because we are the frequency at our core. We are love, we are joy, we are play. That is our source frequency. Okay, let's talk about duality. So a big message that came through too was this internal world versus the external world. And both are happening at once. But not many people are aware of their internal world, the actual cause of the external world. So I was having this moment where I could close my eyes and I could really dive deep, and I could let like the mushrooms guide me. I picture like the mycelium network like of the mushrooms, and it just like kind of like coursing through my veins and just like taking me into like different parts of like my mind. And at the same time, there was an external world. So my boyfriend was with me, and at one point he was in the same room as me, but we were like separated. But I could hear him kind of shuffling around, and I could hear the external world, but I was more focused on the internal world. I was more focused on what was going on inside of me. And it was really cool because I was like, wow, there's two worlds happening right now. Like, he's not in my internal world, but he's in my external world. And I was in both at once, which was really cool, but it just depended on which one I was like focusing on. So, yeah, the external world is the 3D, the manifested world. And it's up to us to control our mind, to control that focus on which world we are focusing on. And we want to be able to use our mind also to tap into the internal world, which is why we meditate, and why we do like somatic practices or like EFT tapping, to use your mind to focus on your body, to put that focus on your body and your energy and how you feel, versus always putting your mind outward, scrolling, things external from you. What is he thinking? What is she thinking? Trying to control all these things around us. It's like, whoa, what if I put the focus on my internal world and I allow myself to be aware, to shift what needs to shift, like to question, the thoughts that come up, and then, reframe them so that you can change how your internal world feels on a moment's notice. Another thing that I wrote down about focus is that the power of focus is that when you really focus, you can do some amazing work. And it reminded me of a quote that I love that I think I got from Abraham Hicks, where it says, "Focused attention is the most pure form of love." And whenever you know how they say where your focus goes, energy flows. So when we truly take the time to focus, whether that's meditation, whether that is, being with our body. Another thing that I am like playing around with at this point is it just in my general practice of life and just being is focusing on the parts of my body that maybe have some pain or that need some healing, and allowing myself to build a relationship with that part of my body. Like, so for instance, right now I have some pain in like the fascia in my foot, and I kind of have always had that. And I've tried different things and nothing has really worked. And I know that the fascia is the foundation of everything. So I'm building this relationship with my foot and with my fascia, and also with the muscles that then I need to strengthen my foot and just all the muscles along that leg of my foot. So focused attention, whenever we focus on something, we're giving it love, we're giving it presence. And you can even think about this too. Also, what comes to mind with this is like pleasure that we feel in sex. It's like when we focus, we are truly focusing in on that pleasure. And then of course, there's an ultimate peak, an ultimate, release of that pleasure because we have focused on it. We're focusing on the sensation. And so even when I was on the mushrooms, I was focusing on my foot, and I could feel my foot like twitching as I was just focusing on my foot and like building this relationship with my foot. So I also wrote, like, you can talk to your cells and rewrite any story, which is so true when we look at so many like meditation methods of like, we can heal ourselves from the inside out when we take the time to give ourselves a loving, focused attention. And this comes from so much of when I work with women, so much of our thoughts that we have when we are working with our body or when we are working with ourselves. And for the women that I work with who feel disconnected from their body, we always start with, okay, well, how do you build a relationship with someone? You talk to someone, you communicate with someone, you talk about your desires, you talk about your wants, your needs, all of the things. So I say, why would that be any different than you building a relationship with your body? Talk to your body, give your body love, listen to your body. Take the time to slow down. But that's the thing, is a lot of times we're just not taking the time to provide space for that focused attention. Another thought that I had was just when you think it's over, it's not. So we're on this journey of life, and just when you think you just need to get to some milestone, you just need to get married, or you just need to find the man, or you just need to make a certain amount of money, just when you think it's over, it's not. And you relax again, you release that control, again, letting go of the outcome, you relax, and you will never miss your chance for whatever the thing was, because life is like an ever-flowing stream. But I also saw it as like this donut, like it goes like up and out. It collapses back in on itself, like it rejuvenates itself. So we are always coming back around to things, and opportunities are never missed because the stream of life is ever flowing. Like, this is the wave. So it's not the energy, like it's never going anywhere. There's no end destination. It's constantly rejuvenating itself. And the last piece that I will say about this is that I had such a clear message of, we are here to protect and reclaim the internal world, like your internal world. You are here to protect and reclaim your internal world. The very thing that we've grown up in a conditioned society that tells us that we are not the creator of our reality, that, we have limited things, or only certain things are available to us, and that we are actually here to protect, to wake up to this internal world and to reclaim it so that we can be the cause of all that we desire in our life. And that's truly what it is to like be a creator, but we'll get a little bit more into that in a second. So moving into a section of perception. So the 3D is here for your pleasure. It's your playground. Everything in your life is here for you to see through this lens of pleasure and love and joy and play, and to really amplify that. to show up every day and be like, okay, like today is like a playground. Like if I'm the child in this world, like what am I going to play with today? But again, we're wired to see things through the lens of lack and survival. And that like the worst case scenario versus waking up and being Delulu and letting that be okay. But this is why we have to rewire and practice ourselves into a new way of being, because it simply is fun and it feels pleasurable and it's light and it's like, why not? And of course, pain is inevitable in life, but it's just pointing us to where we can actually more integrate more into our power. So duality, this perception, is that we can see things as good or bad. You choose. You're always choosing how you're viewing your reality, because there's always going to be a duality of good and bad, or lack and abundance, or fear and love. Whatever it is, there's always a duality. You get to choose your perspective, and your literal like state of being will choose your perspective, or you can get ahead of it and you can actually control that, which is what I'm saying. Like you wake up, you're Delulu, and you're like, okay, I'm going to choose to see that today, like everything is always working out for me. And even if my car breaks down, or even if I drop my coffee, like, oh, that's just working out for me. And it seems like Delulu, but it's like, we do have to ignore the 3D and to keep that internal world intact so that we can truly be the cause of the world that we want to see, that we can see the effect, cause and effect. We are the cause. So along these lines, I wrote, we choose this human life, a life of separation in our bodies, because we come from oneness, right? We come from mass consciousness. We choose a life of separation. Our souls do. It's like, oh, yay, like, let's go party on earth and like, let's go be in that human body. Why though? Why would we choose this life of separation? Because the feeling of remembering feels so good. Like the satisfaction of being the creator also feels so good. So when we create things, or when we see the result of the things that we've been working towards, because we're like, yeah, like that's possible for me. Like I'm pouring love into myself. I'm loving myself. I'm taking care of my body. I'm like being Delulu. And then bam, a man comes into your life, or you receive money, or whatever it is, a job that you've been wanting. And it's like, wow, that satisfaction is so good. Abraham Hicks talks about this all the time, about the satisfaction factor is why we're actually here. Why we would choose separation in the first place is because it feels so good to be the creator of your reality. And that for me, I'm just like, okay, sign me up. Like I want to be the creator of my reality. That's what I'm here for. So in that sense, life is a game of remembering that you are creating from your internal state, that it's up to you to turn on that energy, to regulate yourself so that you can receive what it is that you want, so that you can receive/create the reality, the life, the love that you want. And this is also points to the mirror of life. And that each obstacle even that we have in life, we see that as a mirror of like, oh yeah, I'm seeing this obstacle, but I can choose to see it as getting me closer to what I desire. Because if pain becomes a portal, like that obstacle then becomes a portal of, oh, wait a second, where have I not claimed that I am enough, that I am worthy? Because pain only happens when there's a disconnect from our true knowing as source, as love, as the creator, as abundance, things like that. So until we know that we are, source who is creating, we will feel some of that pain, because like we will feel rejection when it's like, oh, wait a second, rejection actually has nothing to do with me because I'm worthy and lovable. But that person, for whatever reason, can't commit or doesn't want to be in my life, doesn't want a relationship. But how can you not make it about you and reinforce your internal belief of, wait a second, I am always lovable, I'm always worthy. And even if that person doesn't choose me, then someone else will, because I'm choosing me, because I'm choosing to know my power, my infinite true nature as love, abundance, joy, all of the things. So the very thing that those who control us or, create rules in society, the very thing that they don't want us to have is the capacity to feel, is this knowingness of this internal world. And this is why nervous system capacity is coming up so much these days. Nervous system regulation is because that's where we are truly powerful. That's where we create. That's where we become limitless. And because I wrote the very thing they don't want you to have is capacity to feel, because then you would know how limitless you are and how free you are. But someone wants to profit off of us. Someone wants to control us. Someone wants to keep us small. But we don't play that game around here. You are here to be limitless, to be free, to enjoy your life to the fullest. As cliche as that sounds, but the capacity to feel becomes your frequency. Can you feel the pain? Can you feel even the love and the joy so that you attract more of it? And when you feel the pain, it's so that you're creating a capacity for more love. You're actually alchemizing it. But if you just ignore it and you're like, no, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to get hurt, well, then you're just denying yourself the opportunity for more love to come to you because you're not choosing to feel. Again, it's that edge of being vulnerable, but also being free at the same time. So how much can you relax and let go and allow and not take anything too seriously and see it for what it really is? And again, choosing that perception of this means nothing about me, so I'm going to choose to see this as it's always still working out for me. I'm getting closer to what I want. And the funny thing is that, and I've had this thought before, but it just kind of came up as a reminder, is that we put every obstacle in our life, each person, each soul being is putting obstacles in their life to remember your power, to alchemize it. So everyone has their own divine assignment and their own soul contracts. And all of that is to wake you up to your power, because otherwise there wouldn't be a game on earth, and there wouldn't be, the satisfaction factor of love and joy and pleasure and creation. Because this comes up in Abraham Hicks's work a lot too. People are like, well, if we came from oneness and we were already love, then why would we choose to forget that we are love? And it comes back to, again, the satisfaction factor of remembering. And then, receiving someone in your life who loves you so much that it's like, oh my gosh. Something for me lately is the love that I receive from my boyfriend. It's a little uncomfortable to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, the love that's coming at me, I'm having to build a capacity to actually fully receive it, to feel it, to, let it in. It's I've let it in to a certain extent, but the more that comes at me, I'm like, oh my gosh, do I really love myself that much? And it's just building my capacity. And so I'm like, yeah, I'm going to choose to. So I'm building that capacity to let it in. Okay, let's talk about capacity. So you can feel it all. Feel the capacity. This is the power of your nervous system. So however dark or, painful things get in life, it's we want to feel it all because it's building our capacity to feel. The more pain that we can feel, the more pleasure and joy that we can feel. Because again, once we transmute that, once we transform that energy, that feeling of love and joy is it's all worth it. It's all worth it in the end because we can let it in. So, okay, feeling, this is where I wrote it. Feeling is vulnerable, but it's also the most freeing. Then the thing is, and speaking of this game of life that we have all chosen, is that we're all in on it. And the awakening is just that some people just don't know it yet. That we're all in on the fact that we chose to be here, we chose to be in separation, and that we're waking up using the power of our internal world as the cause to the affect the results outside of us, to our world, 3D world. So how much of your life can you use for pleasure, this is the true measure of success. Now, that might not be your definition of success. There's like many definitions I have of success, but this is one of them. Is like, how much can you use your life for pleasure? Can you wake up and see the 3D as a playground? Again, this is like more of this, like along the lines of Delulu. I have this a quote that is, being a creator is someone who feels the frequency of their desire regardless of the external environment. So even though, let's say, there's no love in your life right now, can you still feel so much love for yourself? If so, that is you being the creator of your reality. That is putting you in your power to say that I am worthy of receiving love, and like love can find me anytime and I'm ready to receive love. And loving yourself, treating yourself as your own best lover. So that's truly a creator, someone who can feel their desire, therefore then not need the external to change. Even if a man never came into your life, could you still love yourself so much? And therefore, coming back to how much can you use your life for pleasure is the true meaning of success or fulfillment, or being the creator and using your power. So creating your own internal pleasure is more satisfying and rejuvenating, again, rejuvenating, than outsourcing to external pleasures. So truly taking the time to feel will actually, in the long run, be more satisfying, more fulfilling than just the quick dopamine hits from scrolling, from the dating apps, from buying another outfit, to, whatever, having another drink, whatever it is that it kind of gives you that little like hit. It's like, actually, when my clients take the time to do a breast massage, to do an EFT tapping or a meditation, it's like truly getting into that feeling state of not just the quick hit, but finding that internal being with your state of being, your presence, building love, taking time, being with your body. That in and of itself, your own internal pleasure is more satisfying and rejuvenating. And in the long run, makes you more magnetic. So your frequency, of course, is your energy, is your dominant vibration. But I also put that frequency is a connection to your internal knowing, which, if your internal knowing is love, is knowing that you are limitless, is knowing that you are infinite abundance, then that's your frequency then, right? So it does make sense that frequency is your connection to your internal knowing. All right, and I'll leave you with this. The last thing I have is that there's nothing to lose in life but yourself. So knowing that you are limitless and that you are love, when we forget that, we've lost ourselves. We've lost that internal knowing, and we will search outside of ourselves until we finally come back to the internal knowing of, oh yeah, I am love. I am worthy. I am the creator. So there's nothing to lose in life. Like, we think we can lose money, we can lose relationships, but there's nothing to lose other than yourself. And this goes back to this detachment piece of not needing anything outside of you, because you're creating it from within you first. So why would you truly need anything outside of you? Therefore, you don't have to attach to a lover, because you know that you created that experience in your life. You created the fact that he came in. So if he's going to leave, you could be like, well, I'm just going to go do it again. And that's exactly how I live my life. It's like, I'm like, well, I'll just do it again. I'll create the results in my life by tending to my internal state of being, which is our feminine essence, which is this unseen world, the power of our energy, the quantum field, tapping into the possibility, getting into the feeling state, allowing us to stay in that state of regulation, which is receivership, which allows you to receive what you desire, staying in that state of being, even if the external doesn't show it yet, hasn't caught up yet, having that belief and that validation within yourself of like, yep, it's done. So our capacity to receive is also our capacity to experience the frequency of what we want to receive, which would be love. Can you experience love? Then you have the capacity to receive it. But last thing I will say then, but admits that, like, the thing that makes that tough is that it's vulnerable. Because we could face rejection. We could we're risking, that's the risk that we take, is taking on this like fear of rejection. But the work is to not make yourself wrong if there is rejection, is to keep believing and knowing that you can recreate another person that is going to love you. You can recreate that circumstance simply by loving yourself, by tending to your internal world first. So you are the creator when you can feel the experience in your body without the 3D showing it to you. And then you trust and you keep feeling. And that is when your internal world becomes the cause to the external world effect and result. And this also goes along with like the be, do, have model, is that you have to be first. Be the turned on woman, the woman who believes in her desire, who feels the frequency of it first, because then it has to manifest, because it's the version of you that doesn't need it. And therefore it comes to you because you're the match. All right, my love, that's what I have. Thank you for listening to these messages that came from my lovely mushroom experience and all the things that have to do with our internal world and our feminine frequency that is so precious, and it is for us to protect and to reclaim so that we can be our most powerful, our most satisfied, and to truly live into more pleasure, more play, more joy, and be the creator. Be the Delulu creator so that everything else becomes the cherry on top. All right, I'm sending you so much love.